We are going to be diving deeper into our two elements of development. We're going to get into our tactical and our technical development areas. And today, the pre-work revolved around, let me think here, the coaches panel discussions, where with the tactical, it was Mr. John Bush, and with the technical, it was Mr. John Bush, and with the tactical, it was Tim Wassel from Penn State, and Johnny Bush, obviously a 21-year veteran in the MLS. And to elaborate on those topics, today, we are fortunate enough to have with us some great coaches, better people. Rick Stainton. Rick is the current goalkeeper and assistant coach at Georgetown University. He's the former head coach at Seton Hall University on the women's side, former head coach and goalkeeper coach with Sky Blue FC of the NWSL. He has the USSF A license and is the owner of Stainton Sports in New Jersey. Coach Rick Stainton. Rick, great to have you here, sir.
Pleasure to be here. I appreciate the introduction and looking forward to the presentation.
Excellent.
Before you introduce Mark, though, if you don't mind, if I could just make mention, if you guys have a phone handy or a different tab on your computer, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Menti.com and the word clouds. So we're going to be using Menti. So if you could either get a phone or open up another tab on your browser, that would be very helpful. We look forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And also presenting today or coaching today with Coach Rick is Coach Mark Litton. Coach Mark is a 14-year professional indoor goalkeeper coach in the MISL and MASL. He's a 10-year coach with the Milwaukee Wave. He's a 10-year goalkeeper coach with the Futsal U.S. men's national team, and he participated in 3 CONCACAF qualifying tournaments in addition to the 2008 FIFA World Cup. He has his USSF B license and also has his USSF national goalkeeping license. Coach Mark Litton, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Rick. Pleasure to be here today. And you gave the shortened version of my bio. We don't have enough time to go through everything.
I gave the shortened version to both of you guys. We'd be here all day if we didn't. So I'm just going to turn it over to the two of you. Appreciate your time, and everyone, please focus on Coach Rick, Coach Mark.
It doesn't show me.
The first thing I'd like to just pull up real quickly is if everybody could mute their lines. Unless you have something to say, then unmute, and otherwise we do get a lot of static and feedback if lines are unmuted. So if everyone could please do that, that would be great. Just to kind of build off of last week's sessions with the other two coaches, Tony and, oh my gosh, it's slipping my mind, Ryan. 5 elements of development. We are going to focus on just 2 of those elements today. Last week, they went through and did a high-level overview of the 5 elements of the technical, tactical, physical, the psychological or emotional side, and then also the social side. But Coach Rick and I today we're going to just focus on tactical awareness, which Rick will be covering, and then technical ability, which I will be focusing on. So if we could go to the next slide. So jumping into the Menti.com, if everyone has had a chance to load it and open that program, what this is it's really an opportunity for us to have a little bit of engagement, and you have an opportunity to input some of your answers. But one of the first questions in the area I'm going to be focusing on in technical abilities is really handling and diving. So as you're thinking about what handling means to you and what diving means to you, what would you say are the different components of handling or diving? So if all of you could just input a little bit of information. Rick, anything additional to add to that?
Just for Menti, it's Menti.com, MENTI.com. And the code is right up top here, but it's 840151. And if you just stay on that page throughout the presentation, the 2 other questions that we're going to put up there will be under the same code, and you'll see them pop up either on your phone or in a different browser, different page. Okay. Yep, that's perfect. I don't know who that is showing it, but it's great. So what you do is now on Menti, you see the question there, what are the different components of handling and or diving? So you could either respond about both handling and diving or just on one of them. From your perspective, what do you think some of the components, some of the factors, some of the skills that are required with handling and diving?
And it could just be keywords to associate it with either of those two techniques.
And then we'll give it 30 more seconds and then we'll move on. We see some responses coming in as we speak here. Now, this is a good opportunity for everyone. It's anonymous, so please don't shy away from putting some of those responses in. There we go. Now I see the number growing.
Yes, and everybody has a different perception of what handling means and or diving. And in most cases, it's an individual perception and it's not necessarily a wrong answer. It's just the way you perceive the definition of handling and or diving. And wow, some great feedback there. And from the ones I can see right away, footwork, hand position, body shape, jumping, contour catch, front smother, catching the ball cleanly, hands, high balls, and so on and so on. That's great that we're all seem to have a good understanding and a foundation of concept of what handling and or diving means. So a little bit about myself. As Eric alluded to, I've coached futsal goalkeepers. I've coached indoor goalkeepers. I've also coached outdoor goalkeepers, all at a very high level. And so I've had the unique opportunity of working on a variety of different situations that would involve handling and diving in each of the different elements of goalkeeping that I've coached. Where outdoor, as most of you are probably outdoor keepers, thinking about handling and diving, there's a lot of emphasis on the hands, on catching. As I move indoors, it becomes more of a hybrid where I'm dealing with goalkeepers and I'm training both a catching scenario, but then also a blocking or parrying scenario. But as I move into my futsal goalkeepers, most of my emphasis with my futsal goalkeepers is less about catching and more about diving and blocking and parrying because of the speed of play. And each game and each version of the game has different aspects that really changes with how the goalkeeper needs to present themselves with handling and diving situations. So thinking today, since probably the majority of those of you that are attending are focused on the outdoor game, that's where I'm going to put my focus, is really on the outdoor game. And you can see on the slide now, Rick has shown you some of the components, and we're focusing on the bubble that really is handling and diving. And we talk about, the correct selection of appropriate technique, depending on the situation faced with, depending on if it's a low shot, a medium-sized shot, a high shot, understanding how to secure the ball upon contact, some other components that aren't on this. I mean, we could go on, but there's other components that play into it. Moves the ball away from goal, which could then create a parrying or a deflecting or blocking type of technique. So handling isn't just necessarily about just catching alone. So there's other components that make that up. I believe that any type of handling situation, it's involving more than just catching. My question for the group right now, and it's not something where you need to answer, it's just something where you put your thought into your own head as it relates to handling and diving. What is more important to the goalkeeper in that situation, their hands or their feet? That's something I just give you a couple seconds to think about. Because typically when I ask that questions, I get a lot of different answers. And there's a large group of goalkeepers that will just immediately say, well, it's handling, it's diving, it's your hands. And thinking about all the other aspects that make up handling and diving, it's really about your feet, because your hands aren't going to do what they need to do if your feet don't get them to where they need to be. So that's something to think about as you're working on your handling and diving. We can't think about the other components. We can't think about the finished product of just catching a ball. You know, if it's depending on the technique, the contouring. We also have to think about what our feet, or how our feet need to be engaged in the technique. One other thing I want to add about handling, and this is some terminology that I specifically use with my goalkeepers, that in any handling situation, there's 3 planes of movements leading up into handling or diving situations. I call them a positive direction. And typically when I say a positive direction, that's more of an attacking position where you're attacking the ball either out on angles or stepping into the path of the ball, or even when diving out on angles. There's also neutral movement, which is more your lateral movement back and forth. But at times we get caught in negative movement or a negative direction with our handling and diving. And that could be, you know, scrambling back to tip a ball over the bar, getting caught a little bit forward and having to go backwards to make a save. So really, when I focus on my handling, my primary focus is on the positive direction and the lateral direction. But I do also put in the negative, because it's more of a recovery type direction when a ball does get behind you. Positive, the ball is in front of you. Neutral, the ball can be parallel or lateral to where you're at. And then negative situations, it's when the ball gets in behind you. So if we can move on from that, we have a clip, and this is David De Gea, plays for Spain, plays for Manchester United. At one point, he was one of my favorite goalkeepers. He's still up there, but there's some others that are pushing their way up. But we've got a couple of clips here that are going to really emphasize on his handling and diving technique. So we're going to watch this, and then we'll probably go through it twice. So that was the first one. That's the second one. And then we have a combination coming up. Low save. Excellent. Can we show that one more time, just so that they get a good look? So here's the first decision that De Gea makes. Now his second decision. And the last one is a combination. Good.
Want to play it one more time through, Coach?
No, I think that's good. So my first question to the group, and this is where you can be a little interactive. For each of those segments, the first segment where ball is hit right at him and he more or less holds his ground, blocks the ball away. Second segment, there's a shot to his low left that he chooses to go down and smother with a save on the ground. And then his third is first making a low save to his right, but then coming back across and making a reaction save in front of the goal. My first question to the group is, why do you think he chose to make the saves that he did in those situations? And you could use any situation, but I open it up to the group now to just give me your thoughts as to, let's just think about the first one, where the shot comes in and he just puts his hands up and it goes back out into play. What are some of your thoughts on why he chose that technique or that decision on his handling?
I know a lot of the times that if I do that, it's usually a hard shot. So, and from a weird angle. So I'm assuming that he didn't really like the angle and the shot was probably really strong.
That's a great answer. Anyone else want to add?
Yeah, I think that it is something along the lines of sometimes if a shot's just too hard to, well, not even that hard, but if it's just a powerful shot and it's hard, hard to catch at the moment, it's better to have a block than that in the back of your own net.
Good answer. Anyone else real quick?
Just trying to go
Those
off
are
of
both.
that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Say you attempt to try and catch that, and now that your hands bobble the ball in front of your box inside the 6, someone's there to tap it home instead of a safe parry outside, and now you can regroup and position yourself for a second save if needed.
Absolutely, and all of those are the right answer. It's a situation where the distance that the shooter is away from De Gea, the velocity of the shots. If you look at his position, his body shape, he is in a positive movement or a positive direction. He's moving, he's almost attacking the ball with the way he's leaning in, but it was the right decision because it was a hard shot from close range. It could have even come a little bit out of the crowd where he might not have seen or had a clean look at it. So his decision was to close up his hands into fists and box the ball away. Because you're right, if he tries to handle that with a save and make the decision to try and catch that ball and he loses it, he's spilling it right in front of his own goal. He's going to take all the power off of the ball. It's going to drop out in front of him probably 4 or 5 yards. And then he's going to be forced into having to make a second attempt or a second save on the play. Just thinking about the second, that was what I would categorize as a neutral. I'm sorry. Yes. A neutral save. It's just more or less he's going down low to his left. He's put himself, his body shape, his positioning. There was the hand block again. That was a positive direction where that is more of your neutral. He's just coming lateral across his goal mouth to make a routine low save. The ball wasn't hit very hard, but if you look, he's his handling, he's got his hands behind the ball, but he also has his body behind the ball. He's got 2 lines of barrier between the ball and the goal. And then the last clip, he decides to make a low, strong save to his low right. That is looks a little bit neutral, but this is almost right there. That's a great save. First, it's going into a negative direction. He's going back towards his goal line because of where the ball is. He's got great body position, great feet to get him back to where he needs to be. And that is what we would call a recovery save. He made his first save. The ball wasn't cleared out of play, was back in play. He recovered, a little bit neutral, but then he made a great second save. And a lot of that has to do with how quickly his feet work to get him back onto his feet and move back into the direction of putting himself in the best possible position to make that second save. Any questions about those clips before we move on from the technical side of today's conversation?
I had a quick little comment.
Yes.
This is Greg Kennedy. How the fact that he is against such high level allows him, if the same De Gea, the same technical count on the league, or require having to see that stuff regularly before you can actually, play that card, for lack of a better word.
You broke up a little bit, but I think I've got with each level we play at.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping this will answer the question. With each level we play at, we have to adapt our goalkeeping style to the speed of play, which is a big part of it, because at the younger ages, the speed of play, the power of shots tends to be a little bit less than as we get older. So at times there's more opportunity for goalkeepers to work on their technical skills and really hone in on catching and boxing, parrying, diving. As we get to the higher levels, the speed of play increases. What also has to increase is speed of decision making. What technique am I going to use in a particular situation? The style of the ball today, I can tell you from when I started goalkeeping to today, the ball has changed. It waves a lot in the air. It knuckles. It doesn't have a true flight like it used to. It curves. It dips. And so some of the goalkeepers are put in a situation where it's less about catching. It's more about body shape and positioning and just doing the best that they can to make sure that that first ball is played away from a dangerous situation. Case in point, his first save, decided to close up his fists and box the ball away. Hard to tell from that clip, but the velocity, that ball could have been knuckling, where he may not have got a good clean hands behind the ball to make a catch. So as we get older, we have to almost adapt to the speed of play, the speed of thoughts, the type of ball we're using, the physicality of the game. There's lots of components as the keepers develop that eventually they have to modify their own style. What I say to a lot of goalkeepers come in all shapes and sizes. We all create our own goalkeeper style based on our own personal attributes, our own shape, our own size, our height, our width, and we find our advantages. I'm 5'8", and when I played in college, I told everybody I played like I was 6'4", because that's the presence I created as a goalkeeper. So there's no one size that fits all. We all have to find what style as it relates to our diving technique, our handling technique, when we use that, why we're using it. Those are all components that play into the development of individual goalkeepers.
23 minutes in.
Okay, so let's move on, and Rick is going to move us on to tactical awareness.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it. Great job as well. As you could see, guys, we literally can talk for hours upon hours. You know, we just touched the surface of a little bit of technical work, and same's going to hold true with tactical. You know, tactical awareness, there's so many different topics and aspects of it that we could go in depth with so many things. But my job today is to talk a little bit about support. How can a goalkeeper support their teammates, all right, in a possession and out of possession? And what I want to try to get across in the short period of time that we have is trying to show you some examples of being effective in your positional play to support. So before I get into depth with that, that's kind of when we're in possession, when we have the ball, how can we move the ball to work as a unit to get forward? When you make a save, we're now in possession. How do you distribute it? So the other aspect, I'd like to try to allow you to see pictures of positional play that will help you defend space. And including space, you're looking at the different areas around you, for example, to your left, right, behind, and front, but also while trying to protect that goal. And then trying to give you a little perspective of an understanding of when to come out and when to stay back. All right, these are all tactical decisions that you got to make in milliseconds to help influence the play and support your team that stands in front of you. And then if we have time, we'll also touch base on organization with some defensive set pieces, okay? So before we get into the word cloud, the one thing I would like to mention, and it's a phrase that I continue to use over the many years I've been doing this, is, you know, with technique, with good technique comes confidence. So as you can see, we stack this with technical ability and tactical awareness. So with good technique comes confidence, and then with confidence comes tactics. So if we're not good on the ball, or we're uncomfortable on the ball, or we don't know what to say because we don't understand the positioning of players or how we should be supporting, then that's when we see the quiet goalkeeper. That's when we see the mistakes happen in regards to direction or even misplaying the ball. So obviously technique is vitally important. My job, especially at your age today, is to try to introduce you to some of the tactics that you should be becoming aware of if you aren't already aware of. So with that said, we're going to go back to the menti.com and the word cloud. Okay. And the question simply is, how can a goalkeeper support play? I already threw you a couple little tidbits and hints, but like to see it from your perspective as well. So we'll give you 30 seconds. Go ahead into menti.com, throw a couple responses out there. And as you're doing this, what I'm going to do is present while I'm using a goalkeeper that I'm fortunate enough to be working with, not only at Georgetown, but she is the New Zealand national team goalkeeper. And I have a couple clips from her most recent tournament at the Algarve Cup. And you're going to see that Italy really did put a lot of pressure on them. And you got to see how she became and grown confident on the ball and helped support her teammates. So another 10 seconds or so. I don't see many responses yet. I'm going to press it.
Hey, Coach, from my end, it looks like it's just the same screen from before about handling. I'm not sure if you need to update or refresh it.
All right. Well, if that's not working, we'll just go ahead and move on. I tried refreshing, but it doesn't look like it is. Thank you for letting me know that. Does anyone want to verbalize some of the responses that they were putting?
Well, one way, a big way goalkeeper can support play is just starting attacks. You're the last defender, but the first attacker. So I think, and a lot of goals come from, you know, like goalkeepers like Ederson. You always see them making great passes across the field. People like Stainton, they always start attacks. So yeah.
That's a great phrase. And you know, that's transition, not only in play, but transition in thought as well. You just gained possession. So you're looking to either try to counterattack quickly, which is a tactic, okay? Or you're looking to slow down play depending on the time of pressure you've been under. So great response. Yep. Anyone else?
Another way you can is like being vocal.
Being vocal, communication. We hear that an awful lot. Is there a difference between white noise, which is like static on your TV, and being direct and informative? What do you think? Absolutely, right? So an example of white noise might be just you continuing to cheer on and telling them good job or go get it. You want to try to minimize the white noise and be more directive. And that comes with obviously understanding the game a little bit more and growing in your own technique to be able to tell them when to go in and make a tackle. Where should they be applying the pressure to keep that attacker out? Okay. So that's another great response. Knowing the difference between your communication. Be effective. Don't be the white noise. Okay. One more we'll take and then we'll move on.
Another thing that
I have one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't see who's saying it, but I hear a nice young girl.
Is that Islam? Is that you? Go right ahead, Islam. I can see him.
How can a goalkeeper support play? A goalkeeper can support play by talking to his team and telling them where to go and cover players.
Exactly. So again, it goes back to that communication. And what I really liked about your response is you already gave direction. You knew what to tell them, right? You knew them who to go cover. You told them when to come back. You told them when to come forward. And to me, that's very, very good direction. So good responses right from the get-go there. So moving on.
30 minutes in.
Gotcha. Trying to change the screen now. Some technical difficulties here, guys. Sorry. Give me another second here. Just gonna stop the share real quick, restart it. Looked like it froze. Really sorry about that, guys. Give me 1 second here. Do you guys still see the same screen? I apologize.
That's okay. Coach, what I'm going to do while you're fixing that, I'm just going to introduce the 5 coaches who are going to be involved in
Yes,
the breakout
please.
rooms, if that's okay. So therefore we
Yeah.
can transition right into it. So in a moment, what we're going to do is break into our breakout rooms with five coaches. All coaches here are college goalkeeper coaches. We have Nick Hills, who is the goalkeeper coach at Muskingum University on the men's side. Mackenzie Pinto, who is the goalkeeper coach at Arcadia University on the women's side. In addition to that, she's the owner of Between the Posts Goalkeeper Academy. Jason Long is the goalkeeper coach at Reading United AC in the USL 2. Mark Nowak, Fort Hayes University on the women's side. He's the goalkeeper coach and assistant coach there. And Chad Prickett, who is at Ohio Wesleyan. He's the GK coach for both the men and the women. And he's also the owner of the Columbus Goalkeeper Academy. So when we get put into our groups, you're going to have 5 college coaches in there to discuss the topics at hand. And we'll transition right into that, Rick. So whenever you're ready, you can just tell Sam to push them into their respective groups.
Do you see my screen again?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Apologies again. It looked like it got frozen on that Menti. So, all right. The first clip, you're going to see the goalkeeper who's going to be in green off to the right of your screen. She plays for the white team, which is New Zealand. And what I want you to see here is the way that they play back to her. So again, in possession, she's going to be in an effective position to go ahead and get the pass back. And then you're going to see how she kind of dictates play by shifting the defenders by ball movement. Okay. So you can see New Zealand opening up quite a bit. You can see Italy applying some pressure. Now they don't go after her. Now what you can see here is they got a good defensive block, right? They're filling the spaces, the gaps. So they're going to make her play out short. So now what they're going to do is just try to shift the defender. So now she could try to break a line, which she does here, into the space, into her attacker there. Okay. So here's one that is out of possession. Okay. This is where I want the goalkeeper to start becoming aware of their starting position and the space that is in front of her or him. As you can see, the white shirts here, that's the back line that was pressed up. This player here just sent a long ball that's going to go into that space. All right. Now, if you think about it, the further back she is, the more space they have and the more time they have to go ahead and run on it. But what she does a great job of is knowing the area that's behind her, which is the goal she needs to protect. So she feels she's in a good, comfortable position if that ball was hit even longer to get back and make the catch or to save. She feels in comfortable position if the ball was slanted on any different angle to go ahead and laterally get out to it. Or as you'll see in this case, the ball is going to be dropped right in between her and her back line, and she's confident enough to come out and clean it up as quickly as possible. However, she's reading the play. So she saw this player turn up. She saw that there was no pressure on the ball. So she was able to cheat up a little bit to help her back line. And again, this is a supportive position that connects her with her team. And you can see the ball gets played right into her. This is her at Georgetown right now. And what I like to get is some input. So be ready to give me a response if you like. You're going to see she typically plays high as a goalkeeper, and her team absolutely loves it because when you play higher up on the field, obviously your defenders can move up and become more compact. They have faith in the goalkeeper to go ahead and play or clean up anything that's behind them. But what you'll see here in this situation is her decision-making and risk and or bravery was something that maybe some goalkeepers don't have or haven't really developed at this point. Or some people could argue the fact that maybe she just made a bad decision and got lucky. So I want to see what you guys have in regards to your perspective. So you saw the long ball sent, right? You see how high she is. She was actually dropping back in this moment, okay? But then she decides to stop right there. Now, if you noticed, if she's not there, this striker is going to get in and probably have a finish because the defender misplayed it. However, her starting position allowed her to come out, make a block save, right? Now it allows her defenders. Again, she supported her defenders. She was like another covered, she was another covered defender in that situation, okay? All right, there we go. Okay, nice block save. As she continues, now she notices the defender's back is facing her goal and she's got pressure on the ball. So what do you think you'll see her do at this moment? Does anyone have an idea?
I would assume that she would probably back up into the goal to like get a better angle on the shot.
Yep. So you're thinking because of the angle, she's going to go ahead and retreat a little bit. Good. I like that. She does drop back. Great. Now, if you noticed her head, she was looking at her positioning. She was trying to find the center. She obviously is pulled out a little bit more than she probably should be or needs to be. Okay. But she could see what the pressure's like. And she noticed that the girl couldn't turn up to go ahead and get the shot off. So that actually wound up being a really good save in my assumption. Anyone else think anything different on that?
Is about if she looks always on the ball.
She's always looking on the ball. I think that was Chase that says. Is that what you said, Chase?
I think one thing she could have done when the attacker had the ball and her back was facing towards the goal, what she could have done was like just attack her and get in her face, like in her back. If she turns, you're already in front of her. She has no chance. But I mean, it's a 50-50. Either you back up or you go for the challenge.
So you're saying to keep her back to goal, don't drop off to apply that pressure.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying, Amir?
You know, yeah.
She wanted to. Why do you think she did drop off at that moment?
Because she probably thought that the forward was going to turn and shoot.
Okay. And there was defenders around her, right?
Yeah.
She had her own teammates then applying pressure at that moment. So the goal became another priority for her at that moment.
Yeah,
Makes
there was
sense?
no reason to, go for the challenge if she has more defenders around her.
Great job. Great responses, guys. All right. So this one's going to be an understanding of when to come out and when to stay. And obviously we could go into so many different examples. This was a long ball played into Spain's forward here. As you could see, it beat all of New Zealand's back line. As I told you, she typically plays really high up behind the back line, but what you'll see is she's transitioning and running backwards towards her goal. What do you guys notice about this attacker right now?
40 minutes
Where
in.
is she on the field?
Attacking third. She seems
So
like
she's in the attacking third. Where else?
It looks like she's alone too.
She's absolutely alone. She's in behind the defenders.
She's on the wing, which
She's on the wing. She's out wide. Okay. So the goalkeeper recognizes there's no way she can get out and try to get that ball. The striker's too quick. Striker is going to get there before her. So now I want you to notice the movement. Okay. What is she now trying to reference to go ahead and put herself in good position?
She's backing up.
backing up. And what do you think is behind her? The goal, obviously.
Yeah.
But how is she playing her angle, you think?
The post.
Okay, so she references the post, but also the middle of the goal, correct? Okay. So
Yeah.
now you saw her. She even took a peek over her left shoulder. She now knows where the post is. Now, if you drew a straight line from the ball to the middle of the goal, you could see her body splits that angle. All right. Now, this is where her decision making comes in. Can she close it? She decides she can a little bit, and then she makes a great save right there. You guys agree with that?
She's not giving the striker the good view for the goal.
100% Islam. That's great, right? What
I
she
think-
did was she made the space small. She made the striker have to make a decision quick. Okay. She was aware of the spacing, so she knew she couldn't come out and get it. So she backed up towards the goal. And as the striker came to her, then she made it smaller. Great job.
She made the forward have to make a quick reaction or quick move in which she wouldn't originally wanted to have done.
Well done, Maddie. Absolutely right. And you could see that just in her movements and then the striker's decision. Good job.
I think her positioning there came because she saw that her defenders were closing the angle. So what she did, she kind of moved towards the first post and forced the striker to shoot towards the second post. Because, again, she saw the defenders closing in on the angle. There's no way she's going to score first post.
Amir, that's another fantastic answer. And what we call that, or some might have different phrases, is our defenders create windows for us. So we teach our defenders how to close the angle so that the window gets smaller for us to protect. And I think what you had just said there is something to the degree as such that she knew she had a smaller angle that she could go ahead and close down, and that the far post was probably protected by her defender with the way they were recovering, or the shot would have been blocked if the striker tried to shoot that way. Is that what you were trying to say?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. All right, moving on. One more quick clip.
Rick,
I told you we were.
Rick,
Yeah.
can we move into the breakout rooms? We're at 45
Yes, we
minutes right
can.
now.
Yes,
and we
we
need some time
can.
for that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate it.
what we're going to do is we're going to go into our breakout rooms. Those who have been with us obviously know what the breakout room entails, but what we're going to do is we're going to break you into a few rooms, and we're going to show you the quick clips that we want you to observe, and then you're going to talk with your coaches about how it influenced or affected the outcomes of the situations there, okay? So you've seen these clips already. This is going to be the technical clips with David De Gea. All right, and now for the tactical aspects, excuse me, is going to be Aubrey Bledsoe. The first one's going to be on a set piece. I didn't get to show you our example, but have some dialogue about how the goalkeeper supports in a set piece situation. You'll see a lot of technical things in that one as well. So just briefly, again, tactical, we showed an example as such. Striker gets in, watch the movements. And so when you go into your breakout groups, your coaches will ask similar questions to above, just kind of what aspects from each, technical and tactical, did you think was most influential? Okay, what helped or hindered the goalkeeper in these situations? And was there one element that you thought was more important than the other? All right, so Coach Eric, once you guys are ready.
Yep, real coaches, all 5 of you, are you comfortable? It's not necessarily a tactical versus technical angle. You have 3 questions, come back with answers to those 3. Everyone's understood? Silence is acceptance, thank you. Group, real quickly, leaders or coaches, find a leader right off the bat, right? Make sure they're gonna present back. 2, everybody, if you can put your video on, it makes these rooms more comforting and easier to speak to as opposed to a black screen with a name upon it. All right. Unmute everybody, please. And coaches, you have 7 to 8 minutes. It's going to be quick. So get right into it, please. Thank you. Go right ahead, Sam. Thank you.
No worries, guys. Enjoy it, guys. Make sure you're really interactive as well. There's no wrong answers. So whatever you can think of, speak your mind. Okay. It's your chance to show everyone your knowledge and yeah, just embrace it and enjoy it. Okay. Here we go.
I want a question.
If you just click on the join logo on your screens, it will send you to a different breakout room.
Did Sam go into a room?
I'm still here.
You're on mute, Eric.
Sorry.
Because it looks like Tammy wasn't sent.
Yep.
So you got Amy, you should be in a group. If I sign you to breakout 1.
It's on.
Can you pause that one more time? Just wait for everyone to get back in before we start recording again.
Yep. Give me a second.
8 more people, I think.
Yep. Here they come.
Next they're gone.
All right.
Yeah.
So it looks like we got everyone back. Group 1 and 2, I believe, were the technical aspects of things. So do we have any spokesperson for each group?
I'll start with Coach Nick. Can you start with your group, please?
Yep. So just brushing through kind of the main points we hit on those 3 questions. Dealing with the technical and tactical kind of in general, we kind of narrowed it down to the technical itself and kind of discussed the handling versus the diving. Just get a better grasp on that, and a lot of good comments. We actually surprisingly agreed that handling was more important than diving, which usually is contentious. So we did say that diving is more fun to do, but handling is sometimes more important. And the last one, the technical, tactical, kind of one or the other. Tactical was actually the first response, and then we kind of discussed how it's one over the other isn't really as important as you might think. They're both incorporated by every situation by situation.
Nice. Anyone else from his group, Nick's group, want to add to that? Nick, all right?
Yeah, Kayla was the leader. She did well. So did the rest.
Awesome. Awesome. Mackenzie, turn it over to your group if I could.
Eli's going to lead for our group. We talked about a couple various things. I think we touched on my keepers. They said how there was both technical and tactical. They saw in most of the scenarios, different elements. So I think Eli is going to touch on a few of those for us.
I saw the New Zealand goalkeeper, her like awareness where the net is, like always checking her shoulder. And for De Gea, I noticed like how he moves his feet to like get himself positioned for a shot.
That's great, Eli. So now, do you understand, or how would you rate the importance of footwork in goalkeeping?
I think footwork is like more important than like diving and handling, because if you can't like get yourself ready for the shot, like you're not even in position for it, so it's most likely gonna go in.
So follow me on a phrase I'm going to say, because, obviously the legs and the feet are vitally, vitally important. And what I try to preach is our feet lead our hands lead our body. So when you think about the collapsed dive, obviously you're moving your feet to get yourself in a set position. At times you're now driving with the leg to bring your hands towards the ball, correct?
Yeah.
And then as your hands are going to the ball, that's what's now leading your body to go in the direction it should be going into. I know Coach Mark really preaches like nose over toes, and that still gives you the same type of thought process where your body is forward as your hands are driving forward, but it's really your legs that lead you to those points, and then the body follows with it.
I'm just going to throw in real quick. Your feet are the foundation of all of your handling, diving, any type of movement. It all comes through your feet.
Right?
Eli, you want to talk about, we discussed kind of some scenarios that they may have been in their own games where they felt that they, may need to be, where their footwork was very important and where they could, use a little bit more, I guess, practice for themselves. Eli, you want to touch on what you were saying about, corner kicks or crossing and the header?
Yeah, so we had a game. I had a game, and the team like practiced their headers a lot, and they scored like 2 goals off like corners from headers. And I gotta work on like my ready position, like moving like my feet with the ball to like position my shot for the header.
So there's obviously quite a few different technical aspects to that as well. But let me touch on a tactical part of it too. How do you feel your starting positions may be, Eli?
Well, I usually start like towards the front of the net, like a step closer to like the side of the corner. And then when the ball like comes into the box, I usually like move, like open my body up to like the face of the net.
Okay.
I think we decided he starts a little bit high on his corners.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there's some reasons why you might do that as well, as maybe you have more confidence going backwards than you do forward. Okay. Some might cheat off their line a little bit more because they don't feel they could get to certain parts of the field or areas to expand their range. Some might stay closer to their goal line. So there's a lot of different techniques and tactics. Obviously, we can't review every single one of them right now, but it sounds like you had a good starting point with Coach McKenzie in there.
Cool.
We move on to the next group.
Yes, please. Jason Long, Coach Jason.
Hello, everyone. All right. Ours quickly transitioned to dealing with corner kicks and set pieces and a lot of the tactical side of it. So Natalie was our leader. She can talk a little bit about what we did.
We were talking a lot about how you position your players and that you should position them by size and not by really anything else, because you shouldn't have like someone who's like 5'9" guarding a 6'4" person. You should try and equalize that size. And we were also talking about using quick words when yelling out orders to our teammates, because like you can't have a conversation with them. So you gotta like just use the key words, just like, yeah. We were also talking about you got to follow the ball when it's kicked, and that backing up sometimes can give you that half second that can be the difference between a save and a goal. And when we were also talking about when you bat the ball away and it's like a 50-50, you don't know which team will get it. You like yell away and push up to try and confuse the other team so your players can get the ball and push up. And we were also talking about whenever the ball is on the other side of the field, the goalkeeper should push up past the 18. So whenever the ball comes back, you can easily like kick it away without having to run up a lot.
Natalie, that was some tremendous input. That was a lot of information in a short period of time too. Well done there.
Very good group.
So, you know, some things, especially on a tactical side, because that was my focus today, that really struck me as you were speaking there was, one, the matchups by size. You know, typically that's done by the coach prior to a game, especially when you get into your older ages. But in a game situation, you know, for a goalkeeper to recognize, hey, you might be too short for this player, and for you to direct her to go ahead and switch up with another player, that takes a lot of confidence for you to do. And the reason you're confident is because you are sure in your decision. So I commend you on something like that. The other thing was you had concise communication. And what that means is you were very detailed and short. It wasn't a lot of muddied words. It was literally like mark up, push up, get out, things like that. That's what your teammate hears. You don't want to get lost in a whole bunch of words. So I really like that. And then when the team gets forward, tactically, you were talking about what we had mentioned today, literally being aware of your space, your area, being able to support. So you were pushing yourself up high into the box as your team transitioned into their attacking end. So kudos on those bullet points that you've come up with.
That was a good group. The one part we were talking about, I don't know if you guys followed, but she was saying about backing off the ball. It's basically if a ball is played in penalty spot to the 18, somewhere deep in the box, and do you go forward and attack that ball? How quick that decision has to be made, and the decision is either go or you need to drop back to your line and give yourself give that half a second, because I'm trying to explain to them as they get older, the speed of the game picks up so fast. And that ball gets whipped in, and before you can breathe, it's coming back at you. And you have to be able to make that decision like that, drop and be ready. So, I mean, they did really well. I was really happy.
Space buys you time.
Yep. A half a second is an hour.
Can make the difference between the save and the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, well done. Well done, Natalie.
Do we have one more group, Coach Eric?
We have two more groups, and for the sake of time, we're going to pick this up. If you don't mind, Rick, holding your comments to the end, let's get through those two groups. Then we'll conclude with you and Mark and then wrap up. All right. I want to try and get it done the next 7 minutes. Is everyone comfortable with that?
Yeah.
All right. Coach Mark, I'm going to lead it to you, man. If you have a couple minutes, please, with your leader and your group's findings.
Absolutely. So we discussed that we're a little tight on time. So we're going to actually, we misunderstood the task. All 5 of the clips were covered by us, but we have a leader for each video. So we're going to have Alex start us off with the first video, please.
Okay. So, De Gea's positioning was really good for, like, how do I explain this?
We spoke about how he got into his positioning, right?
Yeah.
And how did he do that?
Like he shuffled to get like in front of the ball and cut down angles.
definitely. He had the proper technical footwork, right?
Mm-hmm.
And tactically knew where to stand. Now, Maddie, can you lead us through the second video?
Yeah, so through the second video, we were talking about the technical skill of how he made it easier for himself by having good footwork on that. He made the easy low diving save. He had good positioning. He was like really on top. He was on top of the ball. He tactically, he was like he looked really prepared. He was in position. Like he was in a good place to make the save.
Thank you very much, Maddie. And then we had Chris leading the third save there, right?
So, in the third save, I think the technical side is really important because he had to recover several times, because if he made the first save and then it went, to the corner, and then he had to recover and make another save.
We spoke about how it was really good where he blocked the first one too, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Yep, because he was in a good position and had some time to recover. Now, Braden, can you lead us for the fourth one, the corner here?
Yeah, for when she had good attention, and she had good eyesight on the ball and good footwork
What did that lead to?
that lead to a save.
Yep, she was in good proper positioning because she was tactically aware of where the ball was going, right?
Yep.
All righty. Thank you guys so much. You did awesome.
Thank you, Mark. And finally, Coach Chad, want to end with your group. Thank you.
Perfect. I'm going to have Amir talk to everybody. Real quick, we just focused on the first De Gea save from short distance, which he got a strong right hand on. So Amir, if you can give everybody a little bit of insight on the technical ability and tactical awareness he used in that clip. You there, Amir? I think you might be on mute. You're good. Go ahead and try again.
Amir, if you speak, you're off mute, sir. Mark, I'm sorry, Chad, you want to take it, or Amir might be having difficulties here.
Just real quick, we talked about his positioning, which the last group did a great job hitting on, getting his feet across, being in the right spot to be successful, then also being balanced, so not leaning one way or the other. Then we also hit on hand positioning, just because the shot had some heavy pace. He needed to get a hand on it quickly. Then tactically, one of the things that we discussed there was where the rebound was put. It was put out wide, where in the event that someone on the other team does get the ball, it's in an area that's not dangerous, as opposed to if it hit his hand and it laid somewhere in the middle. So the group did a pretty good job. We dove into this, just this one play. They did a good job.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate the feedback. Awesome work there. I'm going to turn it back over to Coach Mark and Coach Rick to conclude, and then I'll just do a couple of maintenance items to get us out of here at the very end. Over to you guys. Thank you.
Just going to recap quickly about the technical components. Again, as we talked about with handling and diving, I mentioned, your feet are what get your hands to the ball. Your feet are really the foundation of all your technical skills. So don't neglect those as you're training. I talked about the three planes, the positive nose over toes, attacking the ball, the neutral, lateral, and then we saw in the De Gea clip, he really had all three of those in, with sometimes going into a negative or recovery mode where you have to go backwards to get yourself into a saving position. So just a lot of high points today that we touched on. We could talk for hours just on handling alone, but just some things for you to take away from today's session. So Rick, would you like to shift over to the tactical side?
Yes, thanks, Coach. So just a quick recap, as Coach Mark just did. you know, our ultimate goal, and hopefully you saw it through some of the video clips and discussion, was just showing how a goalkeeper could support play. Obviously, there's different ways other than just being in possession of the ball and passing it back and forth, the break lines, so forth. And then being in support out of possession. So we talked about today the space in front of the goalkeeper. We talked about how they have to protect the goal and be aware of the space behind, and how their positioning becomes influential in their decision making. So like Coach Mark said, we could have hours upon hours of conversation, and we could dive into so many more different aspects of technique and tactics. But our hope is today that you guys each grabbed at least one thing out of the presentation to help you develop and evolve as successful goalkeepers. But definitely appreciate your time and your effort, and we wish you nothing but the best. Coach Eric?
My bad. Thank you, guys. Everyone, I would like to quickly open it up for questions for about a minute or two. If anyone has questions for Coach Mark and Coach Rick, go right ahead and speak. Don't raise your hands. Just shout it out. Make sure you're off mute, please.
I have a question. In a game situation, what would you prefer to do? What do you think would be more important in certain game situations? Tactical or a technical approach?
Well, I think that to really get a good understanding of the tactical side of the game, you have to have a solid foundation of technical skills. And the better you are with your technical skills, the more understanding you tend to have of the tactical components of the game. They both have their importance and roles in the game, but and they play very much into each other.
Excellent. I also have a question. Is there like a preference of having diving pants on?
We all have different surfaces that we train on, and I think for example, when I train my indoor guys and my futsal guys during games, they may prefer to wear short sleeves and shorts, but in training sessions, knowing there's a lot of repetitive activities that go on, I make sure that they're well protected. They're wearing long pants, elbow pads, knee pads. They may not choose that during games because they don't have as much repetition, but in training sessions, I'd say to protect yourself from injury, which injury can lead to technique falling off. Protect yourself with whatever you need that makes you feel comfortable in repetitive activities.
Okay.
Take one or two more questions if they're out there. Okay, silence is acceptance. Well then, with that, everybody, let's first, if we can, thank our coaches who were involved in the breakout rooms. Can we thank Coach Chad, Coach Mark, Coach Jason, Coach Mackenzie, and Coach Nick? Can we give a golf clap, please? And then can we finally give a standing O for Coach Rick Stainton and Coach Mark Litton? Tremendous work with you guys this week. I appreciate the time today. Everybody, thank you for your time. Going into next week, we're going to conclude with the final three elements of a goalkeeper's development. And those are the psychological, the physical, and the social elements. I've had a lot of questions from the younger group in particular, this group, around what do I do with my goalkeeper when he makes a mistake? Shin goes to chest. He's emotionally checked out of the game. That seems to be a hot topic with young goalkeepers. We'll definitely talk about next week. Who's going to be talking to that? We're going to have Dr. Bill Steffen. Dr. Bill is the professor at sports science at Wingate University. He's also a United Soccer Coaches senior national staff member. We'll have Ryan Deffabaugh of MBS Consulting Services. Ryan is a performance consultant, who specifically works with student athletes and adolescents. And we'll also have Jesse Goldman, who is the goalkeeper coach at Northeastern University in Boston, and he owns Goal Line, which is a speed and agility performance company designed specifically for goalkeepers. Everybody, thank you again. Have an awesome weekend. Stay safe, and looking forward to seeing you at our next United Goalkeeping Alliance session. Have a great weekend.